you ever feel a deep, unshakable loneliness even when you're surrounded by people? The reason might be hiding in your childhood, in experiences you've long forgotten or never even realized were shaping you. What if I told you that the invisible loneliness you carry isn't your fault? That it's not a sign of being broken or unlovable, but a predictable echo of your past? In this video, we're going to pull back the curtain on why so many of us feel this way. We'll explore the surprising ways your early life might have set you up for loneliness as an adult. But we're not stopping there. The most important part of our journey today will be uncovering the steps you can take, starting right now, to heal those old wounds and build the genuine, meaningful connections you've always craved. Stick around, because by the end of this, you'll have a new understanding of your own story and a roadmap for a less lonely future. The invisible epidemic of loneliness. Before we dive into the deep stuff, let's talk about just how common this feeling is. It's not just you. In fact, chronic loneliness has become so widespread that some are calling it a public health crisis. A 2018 study found that 46% of respondents reported feeling lonely always or sometimes, and 43% felt isolated from others. More recent statistics paint an even starker picture, with over 58% of U.S. adults considering themselves lonely. Young adults seem to be hit the hardest, with one study finding that 79% of people aged 18 to 24 say they feel lonely. But here's the kicker. Loneliness isn't about being alone. You can be the life of the party, have a huge circle of friends, or be in a long-term marriage and still feel a profound sense of isolation. It's about a lack of meaningful connection. It's the feeling that no one truly understands you. And this feeling is more than just a fleeting sadness. It has serious health consequences. Loneliness can be as damaging to your health as smoking 15 cigarettes a day, making it even more dangerous than obesity. Lonely adults tend to get less exercise, sleep worse, and have diets higher in fat. This isn't meant to scare you, but to validate what you might be feeling. This isn't a small thing. It's a very real and very serious issue. And for many of us, the roots of this loneliness go way back.
How your childhood writes your loneliness story. Our childhood is like the soil in which the rest of our lives grow. It's where we learn the fundamental lessons about love, safety, and connection. When that soil is missing key nutrients, it can be hard to grow healthy, strong relationships later on. Much of who you are as an adult is influenced by your early years. If you experience trauma or neglect in your childhood, you may have trouble with emotional closeness and feeling safe with other people as an adult, which can lead to deep feelings of loneliness. The blueprint of attachment. One of the most powerful concepts in understanding this is attachment theory. In simple terms, the bond you formed with your primary caregivers as an infant created a blueprint, a kind of internal manual for all your future relationships. This early attachment style influences your views about yourself, others, and relationships in general. Secure attachment. If your caregivers were consistently warm, responsive, and available, you likely developed a secure attachment style. You learned that it's safe to depend on others and that you're worthy of love. People with a secure attachment style are comfortable in relationships, have a positive image of themselves, and generally don't fear being on their own, making them less vulnerable to loneliness. Insecure attachment. But what if your caregivers were inconsistent, neglectful, or overly critical? This is where insecure attachment styles develop, and they are strongly linked to adult loneliness. Anxious attachment. If your caregiver was inconsistent, sometimes warm and attentive, other times cold and distant, you might have developed an anxious attachment style. As a child, you were always on edge, trying to figure out how to get your needs met. As an adult, this can translate into a deep-seated fear of abandonment. You might crave closeness, but also constantly worry that your partner will leave you, leading to clinginess and a need for constant reassurance. This can paradoxically push people away, leaving you feeling even more lonely. Avoidant attachment. If your caregivers were consistently distant, dismissive, or unavailable, you might have learned that relying on others leads to disappointment. You adapted by becoming fiercely independent, learning to suppress your emotions and needs. As an adult, you might find intimacy uncomfortable and keep people at arm's length. You believe you don't need anyone, but deep down, a profound loneliness can fester because you aren't allowing for genuine connection.
A 2016 study found a strong link between childhood emotional neglect and an anxious avoidant attachment style in adulthood. It's crucial to understand that these styles are not your fault. They are brilliant adaptations you developed as a child to survive your environment. The silent wound of emotional neglect. Emotional neglect is one of the most common and insidious forms of childhood trauma because it's often invisible. It's not about what your parents did, but what they didn't do. It's the absence of emotional support, validation, and attention. Maybe your parents were physically present but emotionally checked out. Maybe they dismissed your feelings with phrases like, "Stop being so sensitive," or "You're overreacting." When your feelings are consistently ignored or invalidated as a child, you learn a powerful and damaging lesson. Your emotions don't matter. You learn to suppress them, to disconnect from your own inner world. This can have devastating consequences for your adult relationships. Difficulty identifying and expressing emotions. If you were never taught how to understand your feelings, you might struggle to even know what you're feeling as an adult, let alone communicate it to a partner. This creates a barrier to emotional intimacy. A pervasive sense of emptiness. Many adults who experienced emotional neglect report a chronic feeling of emptiness or numbness. They feel fundamentally different from other people, like they're on the outside looking in. Low self-esteem. Growing up without emotional validation can lead to a deep-seated belief that you are unworthy of love and attention. You might feel inherently flawed, and that if people got to know the real you, they would leave. The problem? You're stuck in a loop. So you have this blueprint from childhood, this set of survival skills that are now working against you. The problem is that these patterns become self-perpetuating. They create a feedback loop that reinforces the loneliness. Think about it. Because you fear rejection, you avoid getting close to people. Because you don't trust others, you push them away when they try to get close. Because you believe you're unlovable, you engage in people-pleasing behaviors, which prevents anyone from knowing the real you. Because you don't know how to express your needs, your relationships feel unfulfilling. Each of these behaviors, born from a need to protect yourself, ultimately confirms your deepest fear, that you are destined to be alone. You might find yourself in a series of unstable relationships or avoiding them altogether. It's a painful, frustrating cycle, and it can feel impossible to break. You long for connection, but your own self-protective instincts are keeping you isolated.
Unraveling the knots, your path to healing. Now for the most important part. I know this has been heavy, but understanding the roots of the problem is the first step towards solving it. Your past does not have to be your future. Healing is possible, and it starts with a conscious decision to offer yourself the care you never received. Here is a roadmap to start that journey. This isn't a quick fix, but a series of steps you can take to gradually rewrite your internal script and open yourself up to the connection you deserve. Step 1. Acknowledge and validate your experience. The first and crucial step is to stop dismissing your own story. You need to name what happened. Acknowledge that childhood emotional neglect is real and that its effects are profound. Your feelings are valid. You weren't too sensitive. You were a child whose needs were not met. Practice self-compassion. Treat yourself with the same kindness you would offer a good friend. Instead of judging yourself for feeling lonely or for the relationship patterns you've developed, try to understand where they came from. Replace self-critical thoughts like, "There's something wrong with me," with compassionate ones like, "I'm feeling this way because I learned that connection wasn't safe. I'm doing the best I can with the tools I have."
Step 2. Get to know your inner world. Emotional neglect teaches you to ignore your feelings. Healing requires you to do the opposite. You need to become an expert on yourself. Build emotional intelligence. Start by simply noticing what you're feeling throughout the day without judgment. You can use an emotion wheel to help you put a name to your feelings. At first, it might just be good or bad. That's okay. Over time, you'll learn to identify more nuanced emotions like disappointment, frustration, or vulnerability. Journaling can be a powerful way to understand your internal patterns. Write a letter to your childhood self, offering the comfort and validation you needed back then. This can be a deeply healing exercise in reparenting your inner child. Step 3. Gently challenge your old beliefs. Your childhood experiences created a set of core beliefs about yourself and the world. Beliefs like, I can't trust anyone, I'm not worthy of love, or needing someone is a sign of weakness. These beliefs operate in the background, influencing your behavior. Healing involves consciously challenging them. Adopt a growth mindset. Recognize that your social skills and ability to connect are not fixed. You can learn and grow. Instead of thinking, I'm just bad at relationships, try, I'm learning how to build healthier connections. Look for evidence that contradicts your beliefs. If you believe no one can be trusted, actively look for small instances of people being reliable or kind. It could be a coworker who helps you with a task, or a friend who listens without judgment. This helps to slowly break down the all-or-nothing thinking that keeps you stuck.
Step 4. Take small, manageable social risks. You can't think your way out of loneliness. At some point, you have to take action. But it has to be at a pace that feels safe for you. The goal isn't to suddenly become a social butterfly, but to take small, consistent steps to let people in. Start small. You don't have to jump into a deep, intimate relationship tomorrow. The first step might be sending a text to a friend you haven't spoken to in a while, or making plans for a short coffee date. Focus on shared interests. Joining a group based on a hobby you enjoy, like a book club, a hiking group, or a volunteer organization, can be a less intimidating way to meet people. The shared activity gives you something to focus on and takes the pressure off of making conversation. Learn to set boundaries. For many who experience neglect, setting boundaries feels selfish or dangerous, but healthy relationships require them. Start by practicing saying no to small things. Notice the feeling of guilt, and then notice that the world doesn't end. This builds the muscle you need to protect your energy and ensure your relationships are reciprocal. Step 5. Seek professional support. You don't have to do this alone. In fact, trying to heal from relational trauma in isolation can be incredibly difficult. A therapist who specializes in trauma, attachment, or childhood emotional neglect can provide a safe space to explore these deep-seated patterns. Therapy is one of the most effective ways to work through the pain caused by these early experiences. Therapies like cognitive behavioral therapy, psychodynamic therapy, or eye movement desensitization and reprocessing, EMDR, can be incredibly helpful in reprocessing traumatic memories and building new, healthier ways of relating to others. The turning point: choosing a new story. The key moment in this journey is realizing that while you didn't get to choose who raised you or the experiences you had, you can choose who is in your life now. You can choose to offer yourself the care, validation, and compassion you always needed. Healing isn't about blaming your parents or erasing the past. It's about understanding how your past has shaped you so you can reclaim your own narrative. It's about recognizing that the lonely, isolated part of you is a child who is still hurting, and that as an adult, you now have the power to comfort and heal that child. This journey isn't easy, and it isn't linear. There will be days when you feel like you're taking 2 steps back. But every time you choose self-compassion over self-criticism, every time you take a small risk to connect,
Every time you honor your own feelings, you are laying down a new neural pathway. You are building a new foundation, one of self-worth and secure connection.
A future of connection. To wrap this all up, if you're feeling a loneliness that seems to go bone deep, there's a very real chance it's an echo of your childhood. Experiences like emotional neglect or inconsistent parenting can create insecure attachment styles that make it difficult to trust, open up, and form the meaningful bonds we all need as human beings. You may have developed protective strategies that, while necessary in childhood, now keep you stuck in a cycle of isolation. But the most important thing to remember is that this is not a life sentence. By acknowledging your past, practicing self-compassion, learning to understand your emotions, challenging old beliefs, and taking small, brave steps to connect with others, you can heal. You can learn to build the secure, loving relationships you've always deserved. The past may have written the first chapter of your story, but you get to write the rest. If this video resonated with you, subscribe to RainWish for more content that helps you understand yourself and build a better future. Don't forget to like and share this video. Until next time, goodbye.